Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central on a Monday, the first day of the week. I'm sure you had a spectacular weekend with our Breakfast Extra crew. Well, we're here to start your week the best way you can, giving you the latest news, information and insights and analysis on the biggest news stories. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Olive Emodi, still in the spirit of International Women's Day, because all through the month of March is International Women's Month, where we are accelerating action for the progress of women, moving beyond mere talk and rhetoric to actually seeing action being done, which is, of course, why I'm wearing purple, which is the official color for International Women's Month. A number of stories have come.
Memo.
You didn't get the memo, yeah.
I apologize.
Okay, tomorrow you can wear. I forgive you.
Okay.
But I mean, it's interesting that a number of conversations have come up in the month of International Women's Day. The most recent one, of course, being Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And a number of people, women, have complained about not feeling particularly excited about celebrating International Women's Month or International Women's Day this year because they feel like, again, this situation has highlighted the further marginalization of women in the political space. And, we're not seeing the advancement of women and seeing like some steps back in the conversations about sexual harassment. Now, speaking about sexual harassment allegations, beyond the allegation leveled against Senator Godswill Akpabio, the ex-MD of NDCC, Joy Nunia, in 2020 also had sexual harassment allegations against the same Senate president.
While I am aware.
And at the time, what we did see was that he said, of course, that it wasn't true, but no serious action was taken against it. Now, that has been dug up and brought to light, and he's all of a sudden again saying that she would hear from his lawyers, and there have been reactions to that. Benga, your thoughts about that?
I mean, why didn't we hear from the lawyers when it happened if there was no element of truth there? And she said it categorically that when he harassed me, I'm an Ogoni woman, I gave him a dirty slap, and we never heard any statement or anything from there. So it would be nice for his lawyers to actually write her so we see the end of this. And I absolutely agree with you on the tokenism of International Women's Day. It goes beyond paying lip service. We want to see actions, actionable programs for the women folk in Nigeria, not just, every International Women's Day, you put up a banner or post and then you go back to your patriarchal dominated system of subjugating women. We need to move beyond that. This is 2025.
Absolutely. I mean, very, very important to highlight that there. But I think I'll take a slightly different approach. And my approach would be that it's okay for his lawyers to contact Joy Nunia. It's okay for him to decide, you know what, I do not like that was said against me. I do not believe that it is true. Therefore, I have a right to pursue whatever course of action legally that I want to. That's a right reserved for him within the provisions of the Constitution, right to pursue. If he considers that this isn't true, then it is defamation against him. And I hope that we maintain that same energy when women decide to come out and share about how they've been sexually harassed, regardless of how long it has happened. I mean, this happened.
It's their story.
Exactly, it's their story.
They have every right to say it.
That's some of the reactions that we're seeing. We had a guest on the show when we're speaking about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and he said there's a way that women, there's always people react when they're sexually abused. And, he said something about why did she not speak up then? Why is she speaking up now? There is no time limit. Some people can choose to speak now. Some people can choose to speak much later. At the end of the day, it is what it is. So also to speak to a number of the people who have desecrated the celebration of International Women's Day. International Women's Day is not just about wearing purple and celebrating why we are female. That's one end. But it's also to highlight the many areas in which women have been marginalized. On International Women's Day, reports have it that there were women who were carrying placards and, saying they're in support of Akpabio. And nobody's saying you cannot be in support of whoever you choose to support, whether Senator Godswill Akpabio or Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. But if you're truly in support of what is right, you will demand that there be an investigation, that there be a hearing, that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan be given a chance to be heard, and that there is a level playing field, so that if we find out that she's telling the truth, then Senator Godswill Akpabio can face the wrath of the law. And if you found out that she's telling a lie, then Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan can face the wrath of the law. Either way, a proper investigation should be what people should be advocating for, as opposed to, oh, you are tarnishing the reputation of our son, oh, our Akwa Ibom brother. Really, it reeks of, I don't know, I really don't know the right words to use, but at the end of the day, asking for investigation is the better way to go.
Absolutely, and I guess that's it on that story. But moving on Wake Up Conversations, another story, and it happens, I don't know why, or maybe they break the news on weekends, but if you've noticed this trend, Olive, NDLEA and NAFDAC, they always announce their bust on weekends, and then we wake up to it on Monday morning or Sunday saying that they've uncovered all of this. The NDLEA in Lagos uncovers cannabis-infused candies in Lagos Children's Store. I think the punishment should be double. Number one, you have cannabis-infused candies, and number two, you're selling it in Children's Store.
Right. I mean, it was reported that this was intercepted at intercepted in the airport, yes, at the airport, a cargo of cannabis imported from the United Kingdom and meant for sale at a Kiri's mart located at 46 Ogunlano Drive, Surulere, Lagos. They say they seized it on the 27th of February. So when they seized it is not when they announced it. You're right about them announcing it over the weekend. As a consolidated cargo on Allied Airways, and preliminary field test and subsequent forensic analysis established that the substance was laced with a strong strain of cannabis. As a result, the recipient of the shipment, Adedamola Taylor, was arrested on Tuesday, 4th March, after initial arrest of a freight agent. In his statement, Adedamola claimed the consignment was sent to him by his UK-based brother, Babatunde Alabi, to deliver to one Musurat Lawal, who operates the kiddies shop owned by Alabi in Surulere area of Lagos. A follow-up operation at the shop led to the arrest of Musurat. I can't categorically say this was targeted at children. Whilst it's an option and it's a possibility that this was targeted at children, it's also a possibility that it was just a cover-up, and that, you know, the kiddies shop was a major cover-up. So the people that know, the clients that know, like this, the way they say, if you know, you know. So the people that know.
So it goes beyond, just because he has animated coverings doesn't necessarily mean it's targeted at children. But that's left to Madam Monserrat's lawyers
to explain,
to argue in court. Exactly.
Right. I mean, we certainly have a drug problem. Reports have shown how many people are addicted to drugs, and now what we start to see is that people have become so dependent on it. It's been used for recreative options, recreative uses. When you even go to party, you can't even, you have to be extra careful what you consume, because there is no guarantee that that cake or brownie you're eating is not laced.
Exactly.
There's no guarantee that the drink you're having is not laced. And even for the people who are buying these hard substances, sometimes what we then find out is that the hard substances are infused with certain drugs that make them over-effective. So they're laced with certain other substances that will make them have twice as much impact, faster addiction, and it is a problem. Back in the day, people used to hide. But have you not been somewhere in VI when you are walking on the road and asking, you want loud? Uncle, you want loud?
Yeah, I mean, they're open. You don't even know if I'm an NDLEA agent, and then you're proposing, you're selling all this sort of hard drugs. You're asking me if I want to buy it. No. It's really sad, and that's one thing I want to highlight is society is doing a terrible job. I can imagine the children growing up in this generation. Like, it's so open, and show business too has made it look so cool.
Absolutely.
How are you a brand ambassador of a major product, and then you go around smoking in the open, smoking cannabis in the open, and it doesn't cost you endorsements? There are no repercussions. Oh, everybody does it. Let's just move on with life like, you know, nothing happens. We need to do better as a people. It's
almost like it's now like it's really accepted, especially like you've mentioned, in the entertainment industry with celebrity artists. Everybody has something wrapped in their hands that they're smoking before shows, on Instagram lives. It's almost it's in your face. You really can't run away from it
crazy.
anymore.
You go to the nightclubs, they're taking helium-filled balloons to get a high. These things have negative consequences. They will affect your brains later in life, and there's nothing cool about it.
Do you know I didn't know what those helium balloons were until last year when I went on holiday, and in the country there was a particular road where there were tons of young people being in Thailand. I just call it Thailand. Tons of young people, and they just had balloons. I was like, oh, what are they doing with balloons? I found out that those balloons were
not celebrating anything. No.
They're not celebrating anything, no. Because for me, it was just why are they putting the balloons in their nose or in their mouth? But that's the reality that we've come to unfortunately see that we're dealing with. So society has a lot of work to do. The parents, teachers, and because it doesn't just start when they're older, it starts from when they're teenagers. It feels like there's a targeted harassment of these young people with all these substances, and they're being drawn into a certain lifestyle that parents, teachers, and the society
and
at large.
This is where the stakeholders need to come in to protect young people and to protect the vulnerable in society from falling into such harmful substances.
When we were growing up, I don't think it was this bad. I feel like when we were growing up, people used to hide to do things like this.
Parenting is quite a tough job these days, so kudos to all the parents that are very present and, therefore, their children to save them from the negative side of society. But one more story in our I said negative, in our wake-up conversations before we get to our top stories. Falana sues Ogun for 200 million naira over viral assault video. You remember that video that was trending a few weeks ago? Well, if that monarch thought his troubles were over, he might have a rethink. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has filed a 200 million naira lawsuit against Obasemi Ogunjobi, the Olorile of Orile-Ifo, Ogun State, over the alleged assault of Elder Ariola Abraham Love. He's seeking to enforce the 73-year-old's rights to dignity, freedom of movement, and life. And Mr. Falana is also demanding a public apology. He really deserves that.
Yes, he deserves a public apology in the newspapers. The king or the Olori was sentenced. No, it's not Olori, he's called. The monarch was sentenced to, I think, 6 months suspension, but that's not enough. First of all, in Nigeria, we have a culture of respect. It's unfortunate that this culture of respect only comes when we are looking at political office holders and you're looking at when you're speaking and you're asking not to be spoken back to. This case, beyond the disrespect on him as a human being, it was disrespectful on him as an elder, but then it's dehumanizing. Nobody should ever treat anybody like that. We complain about power and how we're very overwhelmed by the intoxication that power provides. So when people in situations like this that take advantage of their office, act in this way, we should ensure that they dance to the tune that they have played. So
absolutely,
kudos
there should be
to
consequences for
there should always
actions.
be consequences.
Yeah.
Kudos to Falana. We hope that he follows through with the case, and we certainly look forward to seeing the public apology in the newspapers. I can't even imagine. I can't even think about if it was my father that he did that.
It's terrible.
Very terrible. Anyway, we'll be looking at more stories today, as well as exploring what's happening in Rivers State. Rivers State has been big in the news lately, and then we'll be sharing with you what our top stories are shortly. But remember that you can watch News Central on DSTV 422, GoTV 23, and we're streaming live on all social media platforms, streaming live on YouTube as well as on X. Now let's share with you what our top stories are. This morning on Breakfast Central, Abia women demand level playing field for gender equity, still in the month of International Women's Celebration. Several groups urged Senator Akpoti to apologize to Senate. Now, why? And still looking at the top stories, Fubara invites Speaker Amaewhule for crucial meeting. The meeting is scheduled to happen today. Anticipating the 2025 Business Growth Conference, Principles of Scaling Your Business to 10 Figures will be looked at as a theme, and we'll be reviewing the newspaper front pages. Stick around for all these and more this morning.
Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aboroa. We begin the news in West Africa, Nigeria, where Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has invited Speaker Martin Amaewhule and other members of the Rivers State House of Assembly to a crucial meeting at the Government House in Port Harcourt. This marks the first official address from Fubara to Amaewhule as the Speaker of the Rivers State Assembly. The invitation, dated March the 7th, follows the Governor's acknowledgement of the Supreme Court's judgment in his March the 5th letter. The meeting will cover key issues, including providing a suitable space for the Assembly's sit-ins, addressing outstanding remunerations, presenting the budget and other critical matters. The lawmakers are scheduled to meet the Governor on Monday, March the 10th at 10 a.m. local time. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, has reassigned the case of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to a new judge. Kanu's legal team had pushed for this change, opposing the return to the case of Justice Binta Nyako after her recusal. Leading counsel Aloy Ejimako confirmed this development, revealing that they received official letters from the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the Chief Judge on Friday. Kanu, convinced of his innocence, expressed gratitude to the CJN for her swift intervention. His legal team says they are now focused on preparing for his defense, emphasizing the importance for fair and speedy trial. Human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana has filed a 200 million naira lawsuit against Obasemi Ogunjobi, the Olorile of Orile Ifo, Ogun State, over alleged assault of Elder Ariela Ibrahim Love. The suit filed on March the 7th, 2025, before the Ogun State High Court in Otta seeks to enforce the victim's right to dignity, freedom of movement and life. Falana is also demanding a public apology in major newspapers. The case stems from a viral video showing Elder Love, the applicant, being assaulted by Oba Ogunjobi and others in February. The monarch was suspended for 6 months by the state government and arraigned for assault. The lawsuit claims the assault violated Elder Love's constitutional and human rights. Meanwhile, the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, destroyed counterfeit drugs at the Umuahia dump site in Akinyele local government area of Oyo State. NAFDAC Director General Professor Mojisola Adeyeye said the counterfeit drugs worth 100 billion naira were confiscated from pharmaceutical drug marketers in Idumota Market, Lagos. She noted that the steps became necessary to prevent the reintroduction of expired, fake, substandard and falsified drugs into circulation. Speaking during the burning exercise, Adeyeye said NAFDAC, as the lead agency and chair of the Federal Task Force on Fake and Counterfeit Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods, is committed to ensuring that food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, chemicals, packaged water, and drinks are safe, wholesome, and effective for human consumption. In Central Africa, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency reports a rise in attacks on hospitals and civilian infrastructure in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo amidst the ongoing assault by the armed group M23. Backed by Rwanda, M23 has made significant advances since January, capturing key cities like Goma and Bukavu, displacing hundreds of thousands between March the 1st and 3rd. Several hospitals were targeted, escalating violence against medical centers and personnel. Security in Goma has deteriorated with a surge in criminal activities, while schools and hospitals have been forced to close in other areas. The conflict has also led to civilian casualties, with over 100,000 people displaced in Lubero. The DRC government accuses Rwanda of supporting M23, a claim Rwanda denies, citing its own security concerns. That's all on Breakfast Headlines. Breakfast Central continues shortly. I'm Benga Borowa.
Women from all walks of life in Abia State converged at the International Conference Center in Umuahia to discuss women, their growth challenges and how to overcome those challenges. News Central's Chinwe Ugele has this report.
The theme for the 2025 International Women's Day celebration is Accelerate Action for Women's Equality. The consensus among women now is that they will take their own destinies in their hands without waiting for others to give them the push.
We can make choices and pursue our dreams free from fear and prejudice. Your background is bad. No, does not mean your back should be on the ground.
Wife of Abia State Governor Priscilla Oti says empowering women guarantees their independence.
To break the cycle of poverty, we must equip young women with skills for self-sufficiency.
She decries the absence of any woman in the State House of Assembly.
Leaders who are willing and have the capacity, we are going to be looking out for them and encouraging them to contest so that at least in the forthcoming election, we will have female lawmakers in the House.
Guest Speaker Professor Edith Nwosu and the keynote speaker Pastor Chioma Ibezim encouraged women to be agents of the change they desire.
We must work together to promote inclusive policies and practices, support women-led initiatives and businesses, amplify the voices and the stories of women globally, starting from Abia.
We need some NGOs, women groups, interested in women right to sponsor bills in the legislature.
In the face of seeming intimidation and harassment of women by the male folk, women believe that time has come for them to unite and fight back the system which appears to stifle their voices.
The Natasha Senate saga. No notable female voice has been heard in solidarity or support for Natasha.
The suspension of Natasha from the Senate. We have to unite for good. It's intimidation in its highest order.
The women understand that they are limitless but will need a level playing ground to spread out their wings.
Most of the things in leadership in Nigeria, governance and all, they're all done with money. Women don't have money.
I'm coming to see a day that a woman will be called upon to be the president of this country.
They are seeing us as their property. They are the property they possess. They don't want to allow women to rise.
We need to take it by ourselves. Work towards it. It's not for giving, it is for taking.
The woman is undoubtedly a beautiful creature whose innate abilities to conquer and overcome her challenges are unmatched because she is naturally result-oriented. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has invited the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Martin Amaewhule, and other lawmakers for a meeting at the Government House in Port Harcourt. The meeting scheduled for Monday, March the 10th, was confirmed in a letter dated March the 7th and signed by the Secretary to the State Government, Tami Dana-Gogo.
According to the letter, the discussions will focus on securing a proper venue for assembly settings, settling outstanding allowances for lawmakers, and presenting the state budget. Other matters concerning the progress of the oil-rich state will also be addressed. Now, here's what you should know. The invitation follows Governor Fubara's earlier commitment after receiving a recent Supreme Court judgment. The Rivers State House of Assembly had given Governor Fubara a 48-hour deadline to represent the 2025 appropriation bill. This deadline has since elapsed, with the state government claiming it didn't receive a letter from the Assembly. We're joined to discuss this further by the CEO and founder of TAF Africa, host Hidden Sparks podcast, Jake Epele. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Morning. It's my pleasure to be here and sandwiched in between two best friends. So I am safe, but also you can be sure that I will speak to national issues as it relates to my dear state and whatever we can do.
Let's hope that the governor will be able to say the same thing too at the end of today, that he's sandwiched between best friends. The meeting is scheduled to hold today. They're saying, the government saying that they didn't receive any official notice. But let's get your thoughts regarding the expectations for this meeting. How do you foresee that the Martin Amaewhule-led team or the lawmakers at this point, how do you foresee that they'll respond to this?
You know, truly, I don't practice telepathy, so I can't peep into their mind to know exactly what their intentions and motives are. But I think we have an opportunity, we shouldn't be missed, of, you know, towing the line of peace and ensuring that full-blown governance will return to my dear state. Because, like I always say, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. It's the people. I am a people person. And, you know, you may call me a weeping boy, a weeping analyst. I can't hold back tears because I know what it means to put people and impoverish people when these political gladiators are fighting. It is the people that suffers the most. So whatever happens, I must also say that I'm seeing a genuine intention, and I've said it before, for matter of conflict of interest. I am from Opopo. I'm from the same place with Fubara. I'm not here to speak as his government spokesperson. No. I am here to set the record straight and to speak objectively as much as I can, you know. So this man wants peace, and I kept saying it. Fubara is not known to be destructive. Fubara is not known to be someone who is hell-bent on grabbing power. If you give him a chance, he will resign and walk away. I can tell you that for free, you know. But he needs to be there to govern us because God has put him there. No matter whatever anybody did to put him there, if God didn't want Fubara, he will not be there. Okay. And so all of us, all hands must be on deck to support him, you know, to rule, to lead the state. I'm choosing my word this morning because his interest is not to rule the state, but to lead the state, you know. And I'm sure the camp of Wike. Go ahead, sir.
Now, Mr. Pele, the last time we spoke to you, you were in Switzerland. Perhaps if you give the warring parties some chocolates, it might bring about peace. Now, you said the governor is a man of peace, and he's extended the olive branch to the Martin Amaewhule camp by addressing him as speaker and extending this hand of invitation. But it doesn't seem, I mean, if one side wants peace, the other side too needs to desire peace. But one of the lawmakers from the Martin Amaewhule camp, Lolo Opoende, completely dismissed the governor's invitation, saying, and I quote, "How can you write a letter for the House of Assembly and put it on social media and expect us to come? The governor should write us the proper way." Number one, does he have a point? He also went on further to say it's time for the governor to day his day while we day our day. That's quite a strong statement. Does this mean there's a total breakdown in relations, or is there still time for a chance for truce?
I don't blame the governor in this case. I don't blame him because the problem is the loss of trust and confidence. His position could be that, hey, if I don't show the public that I've truly invited these people, they will turn around and say they didn't get the letter. And that can be dangerous for him in terms of defending that he truly transmitted the letter. You know, is it something that I probably would have done? Maybe, I don't know, I'll think twice. However, the man is in a survival mood. So whatever he needs to do, he needs to prove to the public and everyone involved that I said I would do this, I have done it, you know. So I think for the lawmaker who made that statement, and they were doing things that also were in the social media. Why do you want to change the goalpost? Because you feel that someone wants to come and score, you know? I think we should put all this behind us. Look, my dear, I'm a leader. What Siminalayi have done right now shows leadership, shows maturity, shows good intention, you know. And I've spoken to some camp in Wike's group, the likes of Chief Deloitte and all that, and we all agreed there's a need for everybody to sheath their sword and pursue peace in the most honorable way. So all sides must tone down the rhetorics so that we can pursue governance in my dear state. For heaven's sake, we have suffered enough. We are withholding the resources that will give access to health, access to social services, access to education. How long can you stretch the people? And so, Martin Amaewhule, the speaker, let me address you this morning. Show leadership. Show the integrity that we all say. Go with your group, the team, and at least listen to the governor. Let him even say all the nonsense you think he will say. And then the choice of implementing what he has said is yours. So don't be deceived by one or two members of your group that will say don't go or don't listen to the governor. It doesn't make political sense, and it might work against you, Mr. Speaker. It might work against you in the future. It's something, I'm just giving you a sound advice as an elder. This is not good for your political records if you don't show up for meetings, for this meeting. And for Mr. Governor, sir, treat them with utmost respect. Be open. Don't worry about whether you'll be misunderstood or taken advantage of. God has kept you on that seat till this time. He will keep you. Let there be honesty on both parts. You know, sincerity of purpose on both parts. Whatever you do, Siminalayi, my brother, remember what you told me, that the thing that concerns you the most is the people that are suffering. Always have that at the back of your mind and go there and prove the Opopo man that you are. We are civilized, we are humane, we operate with a human face. We don't care about name. You know, Fubara, remember I told you, don't bother about reputation, bother about your character. Once you fix your character, it will fix your reputation.
All right. I mean, is it maybe an argument? Because there are those who will blame the governor, that the governor also, that the first team that wrote a letter was the House of Assembly members who had written to the governor to represent the budget. And, you know, he did not honor that. So is it an argument that the governor has also erred in that regard? And as at last night, the reports are that we're not sure if they will or will not show up for the meeting. If they choose not to show up for the meeting, what other options are there?
Well, for the governor receiving such notice and threat, any other person will probably, and I'm not, remember, I was one of the first analysts that called on him to obey all Supreme Court rules. Chief Deloitte was with me, and he was very respectful to me as an elder person. Throughout that interview in another station, he kept saying, Uncle Jake, and I respect that, and it was genuine, you know. So, in answer to your question, you know, for him not really obeying, I think he was reviewing the judgment, getting advice from his lawyers, getting advice from his attorney general, you know, and ensuring that he's on the right side of the law. That said, if I were in his shoes, I probably would have transmitted a letter and said, give me some time, you know, this look like a threat to me, but give me some time. I will respond to you. You understand, But this man has shown leadership in writing to them and calling them for a meeting. And the Fubara I know, he may even render apologies and say, I'm sorry, I didn't respond when I responded. I was reviewing the judgment to know and be on the side of the law and caution, not making excuses for him, let all sides come to the table and negotiate. He has agreed publicly that he's going to make sure that all the entitlements are paid. You understand?
Mr. Pele, a lot of observers and critics,
the budget.
a lot of observers and critics of Mr. Governor Fubara would argue and say, he's doing this now because he's been boxed to a corner by the Supreme Court ruling, that this invitation should have come way earlier and would have avoided this dramatic situation with Sin. The governor's invitation includes discussions on allowances, a proper meeting space for the assembly, and the budget. Is this really a real attempt at reconciliation, or is doing it because he's been boxed to a corner? And do you also agree that he should have done this months ago? Why is it coming now?
No, I think he wanted to wait to see the legal process play out. Okay. Secondly, let me not backtrack. If you go into the antecedents of even the former governor and several other Nigerian governors, Wike is not particularly to be accused. It's a common practice in Nigeria that governors don't obey the court orders. Anybody who wants to be strong-headed would just jettison everything that is being said, and still do what he wants to do. You understand? Let me say this, and I'm saying this because I've had two meetings with Sim. I have extended the same olive branch to the camp of Wike, and I didn't get any invite. I even told Chidi last time, tell him he was the first minister to sign my policy, the first policy I ever wrote for this country. So I still have my respect for him, you understand? But however, in direct answer to your question, I think the governor is not, I know him, he's not afraid of losing that seat. He's not afraid of throwing in the towel. No, that's not the issue. The guy just wants to deliver on governance and write his name in bold gold that this is what I did in spite of the pressure, But he needs to trade cautiously and do the needful and do what is right before God in spite of whatever he stands to gain or lose. Who knows? I don't also want to be predicting the unpredictable. You don't know what is in the heart of Martin Amaewhule.
Okay, I want us to still come back to the conversation. I want us to still come back to the conversation about, where a proper place for the assembly to sit. Do we have updates regarding the assembly that was, the assembly complex that was demolished a while ago? We know that there were different reports as to why it was demolished, and there were speculations as to the real intent. The critics who have blamed the governor for being behind the demolition because of the politics and the show of power. So do we have any updates in that regard? And do you think that's something that should be discussed thoroughly?
Again, I will speak as an elder statesman. I'm 64, so I am. Listen, it's unfair to pin the destruction of that assembly to Fubara. It's unfair because no court have said so. Nobody saw him that night leading the destruction. He has not owned up to say, I was responsible. I think it would be unfair to keep making references to him that he's responsible for what we don't have empirical evidence. Okay, so let's look at the flip side. The destructions of the local government, will you also say that Wike is responsible? There's no empirical evidence. I don't need an IQ of a mushroom or being a lawyer to know that there must be evidence to prove anybody's claim. And that's the situation, you know. Now, in terms of getting a place, my friend, I'm from Rivers. There are several good places, even private property that the governor can hire and, you know, allow them to sit. Even where they are sitting now, in a matter of hours, they can quickly renovate it, expand it, make it more comfortable for them to continue to sit there. The important thing that the governor wants to do is to make sure that they have a befitting place that is neutral, that he is not going to control, you understand, and allow them to do their proceedings. What's wrong in him saying, I want to give you a befitting place? Why are we always going to the past, trying to predict the future? Nobody can tell me of a truth that Fubara has owned up, or there's a court process that said he's responsible, or the people concerned coming out to confess that he sent them. There's nothing like that. So let's be fair.
Now, Mr. Pele, you've, in your discussions and submissions since this Rivers issue started, you've always taken the side of a peacemaker. But we've heard from militant groups and their comments almost sound like a veiled threat and anticipating that, look, if this Amaewhule group, the 27 lawmakers, go ahead and impeach the governor, I mean, it's anticipatory at this point, they will. This crisis has been in Rivers State since it broke out, but what they're threatening might affect the socio-economic well-being of the country. They're saying, look, we will stop oil installations from working and all of that. You do know the implications of that to foreign exchange earnings in the economy at large. What do you make of this sort of rhetoric?
My brother, this is the most important question you've ever asked me. And both yourself and the audience here, if I become emotional, don't take it out on me. Don't think I'm trying to manipulate things. This is who I am. Please, as I look through the lens of this camera, let me address the Asari Dokubo, Tompolo, everyone involved in the struggle within the creek. Please do not do anything. You don't have to destroy the state because you want to protect the interest of any of the parties concerned. Remember, and I say this times without numbers, most of the children of these people are not even in the country. It will backfire on the common people. Asari Dokubo, my brother, we are all Ijo. Tompolo, we are all Ijo. Ijo people are peaceful people. Ijo people are reasonable people. Ijo people are not the kind of people that you stir them up and they start doing what everyone would later regret. Do not ask your people in the creek to blow the pipeline. You're not doing that in the interest of Fubara. Do not instigate youths to fight. There's a certain fight you just leave in the hand of God, and he will do it, and he will do it neatly. Exodus 14:14 comes to mind. Leave the fight to him. He will do the fight, and he will do it neatly. It doesn't matter who is out there lifting their hand and worshiping, and anybody can do praise and worship.
All right.
But it depends on what God you are worshiping. If he is a God of peace, then let there be peace. Don't buy to anybody's pressure.
All right.
That will create anarchy in the state. It is our people that will suffer the most.
Now, looking at how, the way forward, what we're looking for is for we want to ensure that there is peace in River State and there's progress. Is there a role maybe that the former governor, the Minister of the FCT, might play in helping to achieve this peace and progress that we're looking for in River State?
Once, there's one side of Wike that I know, that despite all the things you see him and all that, inside him is a heart of a baby. Just like I cry, Wike can cry. You understand? Look, Honorable Minister of FCT, show leadership. Call your political son. They say you slap with right, you draw with left. Once you call Fubara and two of you snap picture, two of you hold hand, you have dismounted, you will dismantle everybody. But you will be the hero of all this whole process. Show him that you're matured. Show him that you're empathic. That's what leaders do. People make mistake. I'm a bundle of mistake. You are a bundle of mistake. Nobody is perfect. But let's show everyone concerned that we're truly Rivers people. He has made mistake. Yes. You too have made mistake. So this is the time to let go the past, pursue the, be in the present and pursue the future.
Now, Mr. Apele, as we wrap up this conversation with the lawmakers and the governors and the governor at loggerheads, we're anticipating a meeting in about 2 hours. Do you think this political stalemate might improve things for the people? And what do you anticipate as for the results of this meeting that would take place, proposed meeting between the governor and the Martin Amaewhule camp?
First of all, before I give you what may look like prediction, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Once I'm out of this program, I will try and call the governor. The problem is that he's so inundated with too many things that sometimes he doesn't pick up. I will send text message, and this will be my advice. Not only should you open your doors, but open your heart. Be frank about your position. Be upright about your submission, but don't be in a hurry to make decisions you know you will not implement. It will be used against you. What do I believe? I believe that that meeting will hold. I believe that some of them are watching your channel, which is being watched by many of them. And they're hearing me. Chidi Lloyd, my friend, show leadership. Amaewhule, show leadership. The APC chair, whatever, show leadership. Show this guy that you once were eating with him as he was eating with you. Put this whole nonsense, let there be common sense over nonsense. Put this whole nonsense behind us and move on. There will be healing. Once there's a willingness for reconciliation. You understand? We've all been aggrieved one way or the other.
All right.
But you must come to terms with the reality.
And we certainly do look forward to that meeting happening and the progress and advancement of the needs of Rivers State people. Thank you so much, Jake Apele, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Thank you, guys. You're my best on television, but also to thank my good friend Kayode and Joe and all the team at News Central.
Thank you very much.
You guys are the best.
We appreciate the kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting conversation there. Now, following the call for the resignation of the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, over allegations of sexual harassment by suspended Kogi lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, a coalition of several pro-Akpabio groups have called for caution, warning the Senate not to set a dangerous precedent. The groups, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, also called on the Senate to disregard the petition by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, saying it holds no proof, and called on the lawmaker to retract the allegations while tendering an unreserved apology to the Senate.
Call for the resignation of the President of the Nigerian Senate. We must be careful not to set a dangerous precedent for our dear country. Does it mean that if I want the governor of my state to step aside, I could simply cause a similar allegation against him and expect him to resign. We must tread with caution. We therefore sound this stern warning to Natasha's co-travelers to quit undermining the leadership of Nigeria's legislature or face the wrath of the Nigerian public. We demand that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan immediately retract her false allegations and apologize to the Senate President and the institution as a whole. The Senate is not a nightclub. I repeat, the Senate, the Nigerian Senate, is not a nightclub. We must protect the dignity of the hallowed chambers. We call on the Nigerian Senate to completely disregard the petition submitted by Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and refrain from using taxpayers' resources to investigate such fraudulent accusations.
I mean, we've heard that, Olive. I see, I mean, you're not really happy with the press.
I don't know.
I'm just wondering how he managed to get the press to, attend that press conference just to say that she should apologize. I mean, it's her own truth. Why don't you call for an investigation?
I think that was a very disrespectful press statement.
Disrespectful.
Very disrespectful, because if he had as much emotional intelligence, he would remember that at the time the Senate President made a statement of, the Senate is not a nightclub. And it garnered public reaction because he felt like it was a sexist comment and it was disrespectful. He apologized. So even the Senate President that you're speaking for recognized that this was not said in good faith and apologized. And he's there highlighting, I repeat, the Senate is not a nightclub. 1. 2, if he had, the best intentions, what he should call for is an investigation.
Fair hearing.
You're not the one who determines whether she's telling the truth or whether she's telling a lie. What we're saying is, regardless of who is saying the truth or who is telling a lie, let there be an investigation, and let this investigation reveal what the true position is. All these people who feel the need to ask her, I don't see what she's apologizing for.
There's a name for these people, this group, apologists and political hallelujah boys. They're just doing this for their pockets. I mean, if you investigate, because what's in it for him? Why are you so passionate about someone's case? I mean, the right thing to call for is transparent investigation and justice to be served. You called a war press conference. I just said they need favors from the Senate President, and they're trying to be in his good books. And you're doing it at the expense of your reputation. You don't know. People are watching. It's quite sad. I mean, if you would go to the extent of putting that on TV, the least you can do is ask for the right things. The right thing would be to ask for an investigation to be carried out. We've said it over and over again. And as long as this matter comes up, we'll not stop saying it. An investigation should be carried out. And please, a party must not be condemned unheard, and a party cannot be a judge in his own cause. These are the principles of natural justice. Let's also end that talk of, this is 2025, the Senate is not a nightclub. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is always modestly dressed. She even covers her face. So I don't know where the story of nightclub, and I mean, it started from the Senate President. And which is why, I mean, part of why she has a defamation case in court, because his special advisor on new media had put out a publication, according to her, had put out a publication on Facebook that alleged that she was dressed in a seductive manner. She's always transparently dressed and she cares about pancake. Just so we are clear, it is important that that investigation happens. It happens, if it happens, it's for the benefit of Nigerians at large. And the young man in that press statement who was saying Senator Natasha will feel the wrath of Nigerians. And the reputation of the Senate, because the international media has caught up on this issue. In the past few days, Millie Odiambo, the bad girl of Kenya's parliament, she's been posting on Instagram. Yeah, Al Jazeera did a report on it. Exactly. And the reason why she's becoming so vocal, why people are remembering Millie Odiambo again, is because, if you remember, she said, don't be like Millie Odiambo. I'm a bad girl and I'm serving my 4th term. Good girls don't get to the corner office. And the reason why Millie Odiambo really came out to speak about that is because, again, the marginalization of women in the political space has been a conversation ever since, time immemorial. Imagine in a house of over 100 senators, we have just 4 people that are women. Are we saying that they aren't qualified women?
to represent the constituents. Okay, maybe the women did not run for office. Why are a number of them not running? Because they don't even have the faith that they will get the support that they should get, or that they will be allowed to have a voice, or that they will have a voice that they should have. You know, another criticism again is the way that the other women in the House, how they haven't really stood for Senator Natasha.
And it's not a generation thing, because people often misconstrue it as, you know, the older
generation.
It's not. My mother is fully in support of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and anybody with a conscience and the reason why anybody would
naturally tilt to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is because, from what we can see, we don't know what the truth is, but from what we can see, she has been denied a right to fair hearing. Hear her, investigate her, and then if you find out that she's telling a lie, let the law punish her.
Everyone is just calling for fair hearing.
Investigation. That's really the least the Senate can do, because this has put such a stain on Nigeria's Senate, the reputation of the Senate, you know, in a sin climb, or in sinner climbs rather. What you would see would be that they will be so concerned about the investigation, they'll be so concerned about the reputation and how the Senate will be perceived. But now this has cast so much aspersion on the integrity of the red chambers.
And the perception is this: okay, she made an allegation of sexual allegation and she was suspended for that. And both issues are often conflated. She was suspended on the grounds of her behavior in the Senate chamber, but of course, who doesn't know there's no smoke without fire. It could be related. And they took that in anticipation of, you know, just trying to shut down that sexual allegation story, which is unfair. So we need to also talk about, the Senate needs to do a thorough investigation and act on a petition, and also inform the public on the results. Yes.
All right. Anyway, we'll still talk about this. It doesn't seem like it's an issue where the dust has settled. It's still an ongoing conversation, especially now that it's International Women's Month. But we'll share with you a recap of the conversations that we've looked at this morning, and then let you know what's coming up next. Abia women demand level playing field for gender equity. We're still looking at political participation of women, and several groups urged Senator Akpoti to apologize to Senate, and this man, the spokesperson of the group, did give her certain conditions. Fubara invites Speaker Amaewhule for crucial meeting. Meeting is scheduled to happen today. In the next few hours, we'll find out what the outcome of the meeting is, or if it will happen at all. But let's show what's coming up next.
Breakfast Central, anticipating the 2025 Business Growth Conference. We'll discuss on this, and of course, we'll bring you the newspaper front pages. Remember, you can call in and share your contributions with us. And I'll be bringing you Which Way Nigeria today. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues in a moment.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's share with you what our top stories on the front pages of the newspapers are. And joining us to review these headlines is public affairs analyst Dotun Ojong. Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's nice.
Is there something that you're forgetting?
I don't know.
Are you sure? Okay. Have you really wished the only woman on this set happy International Women's Month?
Oh, okay. So because I did that for a lot of women yesterday, I forgot. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you all the best.
Passed?
It has never passed.
No,
it will never pass.
You know, all through the month, we have to be conscious about that.
Yes.
No, so the truth is, because it happened on Saturday, some people will celebrate today, some organizations will celebrate today, some celebrated yesterday, some will celebrate tomorrow. Really, all through the month, people are just going to have events to commemorate, you know. And do you think from what we're doing so far that we're representing the interest of women as much as we should?
Absolutely. And I think that women, particularly in Nigeria, have begun to shatter the cultural constraints that held their predecessors back. And particularly if you look at the media space that you belong to, most of the biggest media empires in Nigeria today are headed by women. And in boardrooms, you see a lot of names that are coming up. And I think this is going to be some kind of encouragement for people. I have taught guests before on the need why they have to be out to represent a generation. And I think we have enough mentorship for them now, and I'm so glad about that.
Thank you very
much.
There's
still a lot to be done.
So much to do. Yeah. Anyway, we'll look into this much later. I'm sure that the papers will give us an issue regarding women to speak about. But let's start with our first paper this morning. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, budget ultimatum, pro-Wike lawmakers give condition to meet Fubara. Lawmakers allege improper letter service, ousted local government chairman, mock governor. So a number of the arguments is that the letter was not even signed by the governor. He did not respect them enough to sign the letter himself. It was signed by his secretary. 4,111 convictions secured, over 364.5 billion naira recovered in 2024, says the EFCC. El-Rufai meets Aregbesola Bakari as ex-governor deepens consultation. Diphtheria, Lagos meets WHO and NCDC over outbreak in school. We are back there again. Man flees as girlfriend found dead in Lagos apartment. Oof. Federal government under fire over plans to import Europe waste. Okay. Petrol imports jump 105% to 15 trillion naira, according to NBS report.
How is that possible? With Dangote saying they can meet Nigeria's...
I think that was 2024.
Okay,
No,
so
that
it's
was
not
2024,
updated.
yes.
All right, system glitch. U.S. Embassy to reschedule visa interviews. Saraki, Serap tackle Akpabio over Natasha suspension. And South Congress deepens PDP crisis as NWC Wike camp clash. Let's take another paper and then we'll get into the analysis.
Okay, let's look at what paper do we have next. The Tribune newspaper. Saraki, the headline says, Natasha. Saraki cautions Akpabio. The rider says, advises him not to politicize, trivialize call for due process in the Senate. Sound advice, if you ask me. Rescind suspension of Kogi lawmaker or face illegal action. Serap tells Akpabio. In 15 years, all lawmakers suspended by National Assembly, state assemblies reinstated by court, says Femi Falana. If Senator Apotu Dragon is reading this, I should give her some sort of hope. Fubara invites Amaewhule 25 other lawmakers for meeting over Supreme Court judgment. Our Foundation webinar, Africa Experiencing Complex Evolving Challenges Must Take Destiny in Their Own Hands, says the speakers of that conference. We also have importers to pay more as shipping companies increase charges. Everybody's increasing charges for everything these days. I guess, Olive, we should see management also increase our own charges.
I think it's very important. HR is taking notes.
Monetary recoveries funding Nigeria's education loan, says EFCC. PDP to hold Southwest and South-South North Central Zonal Congress on April the 12th. Catholic bishops decry worsening security and economic hardship, and Abacha family rejects Babangida's claim on June 12 annulment, 15 killed in Benue community. That's the Tribune.
All right. Let's start with River State. As we, let's go through what's happening in River State. Pro-Wike lawmakers have given the condition to meet Fubara. Fubara has asked for them to meet with him. They're saying, he didn't sign the letter. They're saying that he should have appeared and represented the budget first before talking about a meeting. And some might just say, this meeting after death. Let's get your thoughts.
Okay, I'm just going to start the way I started last week, and I told you that the politics of Rivers is owned by Wike. The people of Rivers seem to be in support of Fubara. And I said it to you last week, if you remember, that anytime there's a contest between the politics of a community and the people, the politics always triumph. And, but most importantly, this takes us to our leadership recruitment process and the process of installation. We have seen over the years that when somebody serves for 2 years, 2 tenures as governor, there's always this urge to always want to install somebody. And for a successor. And we have seen it in the Nigerian way that has not been working well. In fact, a man who is now our president, who is reputed to be a great man when it comes to political talent hunting.
A kingmaker.
A kingmaker. Political talent hunting, political talent placing, and political talent displacing, as the case may be. Also had problem with his deputy. The man that came his successor, Fashola, they had a bit of issue. Ambode came. It shows that we must begin to redefine our leadership recruitment process, installation process. And what do I mean? When we give the people an opportunity to choose who leads them, we have taken pressure away from the polity. And one thing I have noticed about people always wanting to install somebody to come after them is that after leaving office, they always want the part of governance process to pass through their parlor. They want the train of governance to always taxi at their table. They always want to have an input in the process of government.
So how do we free ourselves from the shackles and manacles?
You see, when you get to a point where people think they are completely helpless, then it's a political tragedy. And that's exactly what has happened in Nigeria. When you ask people on the street, have you voted? Do you have a voter's card? The response has always been that, oh, even if I vote, my vote will not count. In fact, I want to remind us that it's a deliberate construct to make the people believe that they do not have a say. And one of the things that I will credit Peter Obi for, I'm not his fan, but one of the things that I will credit him for is the ability to return belief to a certain group of people who came out in 2023 and they were hopeful that they could take their destiny in their hand and change the direction of governance. If those people had not come out, we would not have known that anybody in Nigeria could defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Lagos. So it's about the people coming out to say, at this point in time, we want to be part of the political process. It's always alarming after each election that I've been part of, and we sit back in the boardroom to analyze how many people vote. In a community of 3 million people, about 150,000 people will go and vote. In a community of 250 million people, 25 million people will go out and vote.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
just hold your thoughts for a few
control.
seconds. We have to go on a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Stay with us. This is Breakfast Central. Back to Breakfast Headlines, and we're currently reviewing the newspapers. Remember, we like to keep things interactive here on News Central. We value your contributions. So you can see the phone numbers displayed on your screen. Feel free to call in and share your thoughts on any of the newspaper headlines we shared with you. Now, Dr. before we went on the break, we were talking about the need to change the mindset from Babasope politics to and godfatherism to making the people's vote count.
So now, I have to also quickly, so that people don't misunderstand the fact that there's nothing wrong in godfatherism. There's nothing wrong in it. In fact, let me explain to you the concept of godfatherism. The real essence of godfatherism is the fact that you enter an organization and you have a mentor who mentors you through the process and the practice in that organization. In fact, in religious practice, they have fathers that they refer to for the essence of correction. This man has gone ahead of you. What is wrong in our own system is that when you now have a political godson, in Catholicism, if you want to get married, you have to bring a godfather, a man who has exemplary lifestyle in terms of marriage, who you will be able to pattern your life after. And at the end of the day, if there are minor crises at the beginning of your marriage, it's a man you revert to. So there's nothing wrong about the concept. What is wrong about our own is what I explained to you, that if I'm supposed to mentor somebody, and I think the best way to mentor somebody is to take the money of the government. That is not mentoring. That is stealing. Unfortunately, that's what
acting
a lot
like
of,
you're the government.
Yes, you understand. And in fact, there's one concept of leadership that I have been pushing and I wanted to make popular. It's the concept of living. People don't understand that living is leadership. And I gave an example here. Mandela suffered for his country emancipation, went to prison for close to 30 years. And he came back and he said he was just going to do one term. If he had done 2 terms, he would have rubbished all his achievements. What am I trying to say? Living is leadership. Knowing how to look away from the process of governance. Having said that, Rivers State has come to a point now where we should not continue to debate who is right or wrong. And we must lay emphasis on the fact that the concept of democracy is the concept of legislature. In fact, what differentiates democracy from the military rule that we've had all over the years is the fact that in military rule, there's executive, there's judiciary, no legislature. So that tells you that the symbol of democracy, as it were, is the legislature. So the governor, I appreciate the fact, and for those people who are saying, Olive raised that point, that the governor should have, the person that signed the letter is not the secretary of the governor. It is the secretary to the government of Rivers State. and is in the right position, we are not talking about maybe the personal aid of the governor. The secretary to the government is not a personal aid. It's a constitutional person that has the right to send such a letter. So it does not diminish anybody. But I just think that because when Fubara seemed to have upper hand, people, the body language of people was that, in fact, there was a song that was popular in Rivers. I don't know how they composed it, but it has to do with if you don't have SIM, you won't have network. And that's talking about how important SIM Fubara is. It's very popular with the people. I just returned from there. But again, they've got to a point where everybody needs to align for the sake of democracy. Government is very important. I said to people that the concept of governance or government is the concept of God. The concept of God is doing for the people what they cannot do for themselves.
Right.
But the concept of governance is the same thing.
This Amaewhule group, the speakers, can they act independently of whoever is pulling the strings?
All right, before you respond, let's quickly take Tony Eze's call from Benue. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Well, I want to speak on River crisis. The truth of the matter is that Fubara is in trouble right now. And there is nothing he will do that those people won't complain. Yesterday, the person that is complaining that is not supposed to be secretary of the state, that are supposed to invite those people, that governor is supposed to do it. Even though governor invites those people, they will say, why now? So Fubara is in problem, but it's only God that will see him through. But this thing, with this judgment that Supreme Court has given, put so many people in low spirits that when you have a problem and you go to court,
right,
that is either try and luck there, that if you have luck, you win. If you don't have luck, you face this thing. And justice doesn't supposed to be so. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for calling.
You know, there are some songs ordinarily that you can play in your house. But when you begin to have problem with your co-tenant, then you can't play such song. Because once there's a fight, once there's a fight in the community, you begin to read meanings to all the details. And I think that's exactly what is happening. And we must get to a point where we should understand that anything that will debar democracy from offering dividends to the people should be avoided. Because the essence of all of this, and I want power, you want power, is for us to be able to give the people the dividend of democracy.
And to call a spade, one of the reasons why people don't get the benefit of dividends of democracy is because of this godfatherism. They wrong at the negative side of it. You look at Lagos, for example, just a few weeks ago, a man was accused of high-level corruption, abuse of office, and then we saw some calls were made and then people pulling the strings. And all of a sudden, all of the sins have been washed away with the magical APC broom. And we're seeing what's happening in River State. Now, do you think these 27 lawmakers will act independently? I'll come back to you on this question after we take this call from Chude from Berger.
Good morning, Chude. Please go ahead with your comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay. On the issue of the River State governor, you see, I am not a lawyer, but what I want to say is that the judgment of the Supreme Court has added more, has expanded the injury more. Even though it's the apex court, fine and good, but look at what we are facing. Like your guest said, there is nothing that Fubara will do that will be good on this earth. Because they are bent on destroying him from with the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. He can't succeed it. And the man has proven to be a peacemaker by even summoning the courage to talk to them, to deal with them, to implement the judgment of the Supreme Court. Is a kudos to him.
Right.
I also want to talk about what I saw in this one, the other one, Abacha family and Ibrahim Babangida by his issue. You see, when you want to do something, do it at the right time. Babangida is doing it behind those people that were actively involved when that had happened. Among the dead, who will come and talk? Who will come and give his or her own story? We are only hearing from Babangida. We are not hearing from Abacha. We are not hearing from MKO Abiola. For me, those things the man said, I said it earlier before. What Babangida said was, he mesmerized the whole thing. He could have kept quiet.
Right.
You have started keeping quiet. Kept quiet all along. And let this matter die just like that. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much,
Judy,
for sharing your thoughts.
Now, I want you to pick up from, I was going to ask you, this 27 lawmakers, they were acting independently.
Okay, so,
and in the interest of the people, ordinary people of Rivers State.
So politics is actually bigger and deeper than conversations on television. One of the things that people don't know is that first, is that the people are more powerful than the Godfather. That's number one. But the work that the Godfather does is more strategic than what the people do. What do I mean? To win election today in Nigeria, I've run for office, and I have a fair idea, and I've executed big campaigns. And I have an idea for you to become a governor of your state today as we speak. Now, on the day of election, alone you need like 5 billion naira. On the day of election, alone, you need like 5 billion. Where do these people get this money from? There are people behind the scene who fund, who sponsor. Now, the Rivers State government had not paid the salary of all these 27 lawmakers we are talking about for a period of time, but they've been living. When they pass through their street, they still call them honorable, Babarere, Babake, and they still drop money. Where do they get all the funds from? So what our system has been able to do is to have built few powerful individuals who have control over mechanism of politics. And because of the control they have, they can decide who becomes what. So nobody, as it were now, or as it is, nobody, none of the 27 lawmakers will be able to act independently because they owe whatever it is that they became. You were talking about Lagos State the other time, and I was just smiling. Quickly, if you allow me to say that, none of the lawmakers today in Lagos have the right to complain about what happened. You know why? Because how did they become what they became? It was a process that brought them out, and remember, that same process has silenced a lot of people. Right. So if the system is coming back to you to say, at this point in time, you should not have suspended this person, then you must keep quiet.
Let's quickly talk about...
You don't talk.
we were out of time. If we can do in 1 minute. Natasha Akpabio, Serap has asked that, they should recall her suspension. Do you see that happen?
And also the Bukola Saraki Ango as a former Senate president.
And he's saying that he's Joinunia will hear from his lawyers.
So now, this is the first time that we are having a Senate president preside over a matter that is directly accused him. And for me, I'm a bit not comfortable. For example, if you're in the private sector, things like this cannot happen in the private sector. You can't accuse that your manager is making advances at you, and the organization will set up a committee. Perhaps after this thing, they will now bring the paper to the manager to be the final authority. It will not happen. So one of the things that they will have done to communicate seriousness, and it's not about whether somebody did something or not, but we are just saying that for once, let people see us as a serious-minded people. When you carry the Nigerian passport, let them see you across board, that you have a serious-minded government. And you remember, there was something that happened about 3 weeks ago, corruption index. When we scored 26 out of 100, we were placed at 144th out of 180. And I was having a conversation, and I told them that it's not about the corruption we perpetrated, it's about the perception. So when you want your nation to be given a seat in the Committee of Nations, when you want Nigeria to speak and everybody should listen, all of these little things matter. You cannot sit as a judge in a matter that you are accused of.
Nemo Judex in Kosaswa.
Thank
you so much for joining us this
so
morning.
much.
It's always a pleasure to have you. All right, we're going to a very quick break. When we come back, we have other conversations. Stay with us. The Stephen Akintayo Foundation, a subsidiary of GTEX Holdings, is set to hold a business growth conference come the 12th and the 13th of April in Lagos and Abuja in Nigeria. Now, we'll be joined this morning by the founder of this foundation, and he'll be talking to us about what necessitated this conference, who the target audience is, and what to expect. Join us as we welcome Dr. Stephen Akintayo. Good morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning. How you doing?
Very well. Good to have you. Yeah. So let's talk about the Business Growth Conference and, how this idea came about. Where were you when the idea came to you, and what were you looking to achieve with it?
Well, Good question. One of the major for me was my trajectory in growing our business has been a real organic one, and it's been tough. And we know how we started our company with just 1,000 naira 17 years ago. Yes, and we're in 4 continents of the world today. But it was all organic. I was bootstrapping. In fact, until we moved to US, it was all bootstrapped all through, right? So it's as you sell, you spend, you don't have that external funding coming in to help grow the business. And so when I look at it, at some point, I'm saying we need to be grateful for where we are. We're not where we want to be, but we're not where we used to be. And interviewing and mentoring younger entrepreneurs, I realized that some things that are now normal to our organization are things they are still struggling with. And I strongly believe that Nigeria will change with entrepreneurs, increasing number of entrepreneurs who can scale. If we can boast of 1 million companies that do over 1 billion naira in turnover, you will see how many people will be employed. You see how the unemployment rate will go down. But the challenge is an average business. I mean, a lot of us are doing business. We're having more young people trying to do business, but these are business less than 5 million annual income, 10 million naira annual income. And they're basic, simple things that if we begin to work with them on, we just help them move to the next level.
Now, Dr. Akintayo, who are those you're targeting for this conference, the participants you're expecting, and are they tailored towards a specific industry?
Yeah, basically we're looking at small, no specific industry, but small business owners who have grown the business to a level and are frustrated and just say, I want to move to at least, let's begin to do 1 billion naira in turnover. So to be less scale. And then maybe we also want to think of moving internationally. A lot of people were surprised when we moved to Dubai, US, UK. Now we're opening our office next month in April, in Doha as well in April, in Qatar. So how do you do these things? How do you really scale? I argue that there's so much mentorship around the 2 major sectors we complain is doing well, politics and churches, right? But what you see at that level is strong mentorship. You can call it godfatherism, you can call it my father in the Lord, but there's strong mentorship. Everybody has somebody they are looking up to.
The level of hierarchy.
Yes, but you don't find that in business. And yes, partly we can blame some of us who are a bit more fortunate that were not intentional, but for me personally, it was a decision to say, because growing up, I told God, if you really help my business scale, I'm going to pull as many people as I can.
Wow. I mean, it's very interesting, going back to you sharing the journey of your business and how you started from 1,000 naira and you scaled to the point that you're even setting up in Doha next month. What would you say are some of the core principles that you're looking to explore in the course of teaching other small business owners how they can scale their business? And is it really possible?
I think the first is consistency. Our generation, it's a microwave generation, Instagram, AI, everything is fast. But anything that will last will take time. Things takes time. 17 years for us is not child's play. If a 17-year-old walk here, is almost an adult.
Pre-adult.
Exactly. Right? So things takes time, and you need to be consistent. Today you're doing, manufacturing. Tomorrow is agriculture. Next tomorrow you say that one is not working. We're moving to this. Instead of saying, how do we change the methodology? What are some of the strategies? Who has gone ahead of me that I can learn from? Of course, mentorship is also not free. We need to also balance those arguments, because sometimes people just expect like you owe them. But nothing is free. The time isn't there for most successful entrepreneurs, and there's a cost to many things. You may not see the cost, but there's a cost. And so I think it's both parties that need to begin to adjust. I must be willing to either serve to be mentored or pay to be mentored. In America, no matter how rich you are, you have a mentorship program, and you charge people for it. This March, I'm going for one of my real estate mentors, Grant Cardone. control over $8 billion worth of real estate asset. I learned a lot of what we're doing in the US from him. I'm going for his conference this March, and I'm paying $25,000 for 3 days to sit under him and learn. And this is a guy who is multi-billionaire in dollars. Now in Nigeria, you charge that, people are saying, with all the blessing of God on his life.
He doesn't want to give it
freely. He doesn't
freely.
want to give it freely. And so we are not encouraging people to say, well, maybe it's worth my time to charge a token and spend that time. Now they're saying, no, I'd rather put in my business because I know 1 hour in my business again, I can make millions of dollars.
And some people would even argue that, what you get for free, sometimes you don't value.
Exactly. If you pay attention.
Right. Okay, I think the second part of my question was, is it really possible? And I asked that because in the current administration, there are people who would argue that businesses have struggled to find their bearing in the past 2 years.
Absolutely.
So is it really possible for someone to have the kind of story that you had from 1,000 to multinational, having companies in different nations?
Yeah, it is possible. Absolutely possible. I always say that we entrepreneurs, really, the DNA of a real ideal entrepreneur is that you eat challenges as breakfast. You have to figure a way out. If that is not really your forte, maybe you want to look for a job, right? Because the real concept of entrepreneurship is there is no light in Nigeria. You know what? I'm going to start a solar business. The real concept of entrepreneurship, there's no train in Nigeria. Can I partner with the government? Let's start private train. I mean, we see that in the UK. Not all the trains in the UK are owned by the UK government, right? And you can see even Aliko doing that, right, in the petroleum sector. There's a challenge in the petroleum sector. We'll take it on. Because the rules is that government have never been good at doing business, right?
And that brings me to my next question. I'm happy you mentioned the government side. Now, this conference, is it only open to private sector? Because, the nation is built by the regulators, the government side, and of course the private sector. It takes synergy between both. Are you open to having senior civil servants, perhaps, and people from the government sector attend this conference to learn?
Absolutely.
And what can they learn?
I think they can learn to really even understand we entrepreneurs, how we think, what are the challenges, what we're going through, and how they, as government agencies, can support. There's this draconian methodology to governance in Africa that is killing businesses. You just sit down and say, I'm the director of this. If they don't come to my office, they're in trouble. That's not really how it works. Because you want them to succeed. The more they succeed, the more more people
they're
have
reducing
jobs,
unemployment, they're paying more taxes.
Taxes. So it's a symbiotic relationship that needs to happen. I look forward, and I think it's until we start running government agencies like a business, and that's why they need to come as well, to say, how do I begin to restructure that our officers come early to work, that the tone when somebody comes for something,
policies.
Yes, even the tone. I come for some permits, you can, welcome, sir. It
goes a long way.
In developed world, UAE is one of the countries we operate business. If I go to any government agency, they have a rating system. And I must rate them whether they did well or not. So if you misbehave and you don't treat me like I've come to a bank, I just rate you low. And the government check it and even reward the agency that has the highest level of rating.
We would really need a lot of that here.
Yes, we do. We really do.
Absolutely.
But it begins with them also seeing what they're doing as a business and coming for business meetings and begin to really, really genuinely restructure.
So you've mentioned a few things that I will consider some of the mistakes that some entrepreneurs make.
Yeah.
Not prioritizing their business and seeing it as something that would involve them, putting their best foot forward.
Yeah.
Also not paying for mentorship. What are some of the other key mistakes that you say some entrepreneurs make? Oh, another mistake you mentioned earlier was, not being consistent, dabbling from one idea to another. What would you say are some of the other key mistakes that entrepreneurs make?
I think it's also not understanding either the place of raising capital early. I also had that problem, right? I just kept bootstrapping and didn't even understand that I needed to raise money, right? I think this is the first time we're raising $200 million for our operations in the US. So that didn't come early. In developed world, you're starting a business, you're thinking how to raise money. But the other flip side, even if you bootstrap, is to really master the art of marketing. You see people say they're entrepreneurs and then they say, I'm shy. Yes, I know you are shy, but somebody has to do the talking.
I mean, look at you here doing the talking for your business.
If somebody has to, even if you're so shy, then get a marketing manager who has to be there, has to go out, has to talk to people. Social media is not a joke anymore. I have millions of followers on social media. And sometimes people say, why do you take social media serious? I said, that's the only way people like us could scale. If you're not from a rich home, you're growing your business organically, you have to leverage. And once you really leverage social media, you can immediately go global. Immediately, because there are people watching you and trying to connect with you from all over the world. And that's really for us how we were able to easily scale. Because every country we go to, we already have a customer there. 1 or 2 customers, bring them together. Okay, we are now in your country. Let's grow this thing.
Right.
Can you give us an insight into how this conference will be structured? Is it lecture style? What should participants expect?
Beautiful. So day 1 is going to be physical. On the 12th, Saturday, Ladi Kwali Hall, Continental Hotel, physical, everybody's there. And then for the VIP, we have an evening dinner where we then do a mastermind. All the speakers are there. You're asking them questions. We're reviewing for those who will go for the VIP. The second day is virtual, and I'm bringing a lot of my international friends, Brian Tracy, Dan Locke, Les Brown, for the second day. And that's 13th in Abuja. While for Lagos is 19th, is physical at Eco Hotel. And then on 20th is virtual. So that's the model, yeah.
All right, sounds really interesting. And for people who are maybe looking to explore entrepreneurship, I know you said it's targeted at those who have built to a certain level. There are many people who are starting to think, maybe I would like to try that. And the argument about whether entrepreneurs are born or are made has been a long and age-old argument. But is it also something that budding entrepreneurs should consider?
Yes, absolutely. They should, because believe it or not, I learned about marriage at the age of 14. I had a proprietor who will sit us down and start telling us marriage. And I remember him saying, you will think you don't need this now, but the day when you will need it, you won't have people like me. And that's exactly what happened. By the time I was getting married, there was really no solid people who could give me advice as to how man. In fact, the headache and the whole structure, that's the story. Those who know me know the story. But it was that reservoir of what I had gotten when I was younger, that, okay, this is how you treat your wife. This is what you say. This is how you calm down when things are not the way you want and all that. So as an entrepreneur, never feel that some knowledge, I don't need it now. No, the day you need it, your mind will not even be there to say, I need to go and get some advice. Those things is about being prepared ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah, and as to the question of are entrepreneurs born, will anybody trust themselves with a born doctor or a born pilot?
That's a valid one.
Right? So there's no born entrepreneur. We have to, and the learning is not a destination, it's a journey.
All right. Speaking about this learning being a journey, how can people access information about the conference? How can they get tickets?
Yes, so they can go to www.businessgrowthconference.org, businessgrowthconference.org, and, all the informations are there. I think they're also scrolling the numbers on the screen. Quickly go there. I think regular tickets are now available and for a few weeks, and then we have the late tickets. So if you don't pay on time, you have to pay a little bit more. But it's going to be great. One of the things we're also doing is to have a mentorship program attached. I have something called the Akintayo University, where I brought all this Robert Kiyosaki, Dan Locke, John Maxwell, and they all have courses there. And so we're using that program beyond that conference. You are getting, some people are getting 3 months access, some are getting 6 months access, some are getting 1 year access. So there's mentorship beyond just that 2-day event.
All right. Dr. Stephen Akintayo, founder of Stephen Akintayo Foundation, thank you so much for joining us. And we certainly wish you all the best with the Business Growth Conference.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We'll go on a very quick break, and when we come back, which way Nigeria comes up. And this time, it's a very interesting perspective, divided by darkness. Stick around to find out what that is.
My people, let's talk about something that affects every single Nigerian. Electricity, or should I say the lack of it. For decades, we've been promised steady power, yet we're still here, still living in darkness, still spending hard-earned money on generators, still hoping that one day Nigeria will get it right. Yet, instead of fixing the root problem, the government introduces this so-called service-based tariff system, dividing Nigerians into bands like a colonial caste system. Band A gets 20 hours of power, Band B gets 16 hours of power, Band C 12, Band D 8, and Band E just 4 hours. 4 hours of light in a 24-hour day. How is this even acceptable? And now the Minister of Power is talking about migrating people from Band B to Band A. Nigerians, rejoice. You might be upgraded from Band B to Band A. No, it's not an exclusive club. It's just your electricity bill. It will go up. But will your power supply improve? Nobody knows. Will your bills skyrocket? Yes, definitely. As NLC President Joe Ajero rightly put it, this is the highest level of 419. They've turned electricity tariffs into a Ponzi scheme. Contribute more, but still get nothing. Hospitals are running on generators, students struggling to study at night, businesses collapsing because they can't afford diesel. But somehow the politicians never have power issues. So I ask honestly, why is electricity a privilege in Nigeria? Why is something so basic treated like a rare gem? Even smaller African countries have figured this out. Why is it been rationed like food in a war zone? Why in 2025 and we're still acting like stable power is some sort of miracle? What kind of country does this to its people? Let's not sugarcoat this. This is daylight robbery. The people in charge would rather divide us into bands than fix the root problems. Instead of improving generation, transmission, and distribution, they create a system that justifies their failure. Every Nigerian deserves 24-hour electricity, not as a favor, not as a privilege, but as a right. So, Mr. Minister, when will you give us what we deserve? Enough is enough. We want light and we want it now. Good morning, Nigerians.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has issued a public advisory on Lassa fever after a 31-year-old physician died in Ondo State following his return from the United Kingdom. As of March 2nd, Nigeria has recorded 535 confirmed cases and 98 deaths across 14 states in 2025. The deceased physician traveled to the UK on February 19th and returned to Nigeria on February 27th. He developed symptoms and was admitted to a private health facility in Ondo State where he passed away before his test result confirmed Lassa fever. The NCDC reported that Ondo, Bauchi, Edo, Taraba, and Ebonyi states account for 91% of infections. To reduce the risk of Lassa fever infection, the NCDC advises Nigerians to keep their environment clean and free of rodents, to store food in sealed containers, maintain personal hygiene by washing hands regularly, report suspected cases promptly to local disease surveillance and notification officers.
Healthcare workers are also urged to strictly adhere to infection prevention protocols, including the use of personal protective equipment and isolating confirmed cases. The NCDC has informed UK health authorities about the case, and the UK Health Security Agency has placed some individuals under monitoring due to the physician's recent travel history. The UK Health Services Authority assured the public that Lassa fever does not spread easily between people and the overall risk remains very low.
Well, it just feels like in another day, another trouble. We don't want to hear anything about sickness or illness. Ever since COVID, I think Nigerians have been, the world really has been in a state of trauma. So when we hear, oh, there's a new one, there's diphtheria, there's
people
just start to panic and get anxious. But I mean, from what we hear, there's no person-to-person transfer. It's not as viral as COVID was. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the family of the 31-year-old deceased physician.
Yes, may his soul rest in peace. And how you doing electricity-wise? Are you in band E or blue band?
Bandits. Well, to be fair, I can't even insult my estates. They've been trying. It's just that, depending on your band.
Why would you put people on band E? What do you want to do?
Your bank account will fund your band.
It's really not nice. What do you do with 4 hours a day? Imagine if you're in band E.
Band E?
Yes.
You are a bandit. You are a, what's that thing? Bandit.
Yes.
Those
it's really sad.
It's really sad. Nigerians deserve electricity regardless of whether, certain classes, all this classing system. I mean, we won't understand it. Anyway, we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Bora. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.